here's the same picture, but it's lighter. And as you see, here's the door, and it's ajar. And this is a pearl. And this picture I actually found. It was made by an illustrator in Hong Kong, and he actually he was an illustrator that drew this for a hotel chain. And when this particular picture came out, a lot of people could not understand it, and it disappeared very quickly. But there are few people that saw the beauty and the magic in this particular picture and took off with it. And this is where I discovered it. And this picture is us. This is the picture that we can either close the adventure or slowly open up the door and go after the pearl, go after the moon, go after what is suspended, go after something that is really not quite human, and yet this is not, for this is really not quite human. This is something that's outside the context of what lies on the ground, what lies on the earth, what is built on the earth. This thing is suspended above. Isn't our mind above? Our mind can actually never touch the earth. Our skin can, the body can, but the mind can actually never touch or experience the earth. It's impossible. Because the mind, you could say, it's very much like a balloon, and inside the balloon, whatever this space is filled with, oxygen or helium, that's very much what the mind is like. It can never touch it. And so we have songs, we have feelings, we have thoughts, we have situations that somehow are suspended above. And we head towards it. Not just heading towards the stars, but we head towards something that is ethereal. Something that somehow is a higher thought, so to speak. Something where somehow love can be so evasive. Sometimes love can be so right in front of you, but we can't sell it. And somehow it's really basically hard to keep certain feelings such as love. And that's what the pearl is. And to seek it, and to open up that door and run after it much faster. And to give it more quality time, so to speak, in seeking it. Next picture, please. Here's a famous, the three worlds, the balloon picture. And what I'm going to do for the new people, we're going to explain this from the very beginning here. This particular picture was painted by a person in Hamburg. And he painted this something like 15, 20 years ago. And this particular German, a real beauty. And he is quite a mind. So what we're going to do, we're going to explain this. Reiner, okay. Well, here it is. This is an island here. As you can see here are palm trees, and here's a beach blanket, and here's a pole, an umbrella, and as you can see here, here's a sea. And over here on the side, we have, let's say, gaseous clouds. If you can move over to the right. You're right. Or it doesn't matter, left or right. And as you can see, these are stars, nebulas, galaxies, very much like up here. So instead of being up here, they're underneath the ocean. So what this is doing, this hot air balloon is representing, this up here is representing the iris here. And this is the, you could say, the eyeball in here. And here's the eye fluid, the ocean. And if you go to the right again, or to the left. And so The fluid of the eye is here, but is represented by space, time and space. And let's go down. Now, what is inside here? Now, this is actually just one particular eye in the head observing, but it looks like this person is lying down and actually looking up. And inside the eye is naturally what we call the brain, and the optical nerve is running straight back to the back of the head, and it's giving signals to the brain, and the brain is activating all kinds of memories, and all of a sudden the brain-mind combination can remember that nice cup of coffee that you had this morning, and there was an old boat that you and your dad or mother used to go fishing with and caught some nice fish, and here's an old sign that you can't quite remember, and all these doors that you walked in and out, and here's an old cock of a bird here, and here's some stones, and let's go to the other side. And here's some fish in there, and here's some more fish, and here's an old tree, and there's an old window, and here's a yield sign. Now, this is a yield sign. Here's an apple, and there's an old Volkswagen Beetle that you used to have, that most of us had when we were younger. And here's a road that is still there, and here's a bottle of champagne, and here's a person in the basket. This is us, basically. We are inside the mind, and one wonders if we could go inside the mind and find, where am I? What am I doing inside the mind? And one basically does not pay any attention to it because it's so ethereal. But this particular artist had literally drawn a hot air balloon and put this person in the basket. And here's a person that has a pair of binoculars, observing and looking inside their inner mind. We know that it's very difficult to hold on to one thought longer than a few moments. We know that it's very difficult to hold on to one dream and capture that dream like a still picture before another dream comes in. We know that it's very difficult to hold on to one feeling before another feeling seeps in. And this is the person in the basket. The identity, the ego, the persona, the person that you think you are is always in a person in a hot air basket that never touches the ground. Never touches the ground. That spirit of yours never touches the ground. All we can do is observe and see certain pictures inside. And the person in the basket, you could say, is at the mercy of the winds, the mercy of your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas. For what it is that you wish to remember. In essence, we are always suspended above the ground, at the mercy of the winds, continuously at the mercy of the winds. Can we turn that to the side? You know how to 90 degrees to the right. Yeah. There we are. Now here's a person standing up, and it's you looking at me, as you can see. So here is the person looking out. Here's the eye looking out. Here's the fluid of the eye, and looking out to the side. And it kind of gives you a better idea of the person in the basket. Okay, back again. Lights, please. This particular picture is the one picture that can help understand yourself in your own mind, to help understand what the mind is and how it operates. This balloon picture is genius. It's a beauty, and the artist, genius inside. To take this picture and observe it and look at it and contemplate it and take it apart, and you'll find yourself a person in the basket eventually, always moving at the mercy of your emotions, your thoughts, sounds from the external, whatever. A little itch, whoosh, you're gone. Always. When it comes to stillness and what stillness is and what meditation is supposed to do, and all human beings naturally throughout, sometimes once a day, sometimes quite a few times, and some people they can do it a lot longer, where the hot air balloon is still, the winds are still, your emotions are relaxed, your feelings are relaxed, there's nothing pulling you, there's nothing agitating you, and all of a sudden you find yourself relaxed. It is during these times that one can, you could say, expand one's mind, where the mind can literally start to expand. But when the winds are fast and quick to the point, the mind has a very difficult time expanding. Your consciousness has a very difficult time growing because you're constantly expanding. It's like browsing a magazine, a newspaper. It's like walking down the street and there's taxis going and cars going and people walking by, and you're walking, you're looking to see you don't step on anything. Imagine if you could develop a habit, a way and a means of keeping the hot air balloon a little more still as you're walking down a busy street. And you can. You can learn to do that. We're going to take a little break. Okay? Just small, okay? 10, 15-minute break. Wake up. I don't understand. The question is about the bridge, developing a new bridge in another direction. Putting a new bridge, because the way we build bridges is on a parallel. We build it this way. We don't go up. This bridge, I should have explained, is going up. This bridge is going up. This bridge is going down, north and south. Not just, horizontal, right? It's north and south. That's the difference. So it's not a typical bridge. It's a bridge to a different way to think, a different way to see, to perceive life. Hmm? It's how you are. No, I don't quite understand what you're saying, but to do this kind of work, one has to sit down and realize how one has walked yourself into this particular place and time. And if you go and watch yourself walk across a bridge, jump over a curb, do this, do that, you find that you tend to want to think of everything in the future the same way. And this isn't what this is about. See, you already know how to walk across a bridge. You already know you're going to pretty well, stay lateral. You pretty well know you're going to, jump off a curb. This is different. This is building a bridge up, building a bridge down. It goes against how we walk. So we're not going to walk it the same way. When people start to do a new philosophy, a new idea, or a new religion, or a new way to think, they always want to think the same way. You have to understand how you think, how you have brought yourself to this point in time, and understand and have a good view of it, And then as you're learning something different, you're going to go in another direction. In essence, what I should do is get some NASA space outfits with the helmets and everything, and put it on you, and then go throw you in the ocean. Okay? You'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about, right? Because you can relate to it. Yes?
You can go on those things that simulate being in space. You can go into a machine and it spins you, it disorientates you constantly. It's like on fairgrounds or on amusement parks.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
It is something like that, yes. A little more stable, but yes. Yeah, it is something like that. And that's what this is about. This is not about, this is not Scotland, no, France or America or Germany. This is not about that. This is a different way to build a bridge going in a totally different direction. Okay? Is it building a bridge from life and eternity? You can't use those words. We're building a bridge as a citizen of a particular country and having a particular way of thinking, and slowly building it brick by brick, going in another direction, differently. You can't say life, because what is life? You can't say, to the heart, we have certain definitions of the heart, but we don't know. It's using not just our past, but using new thoughts, new ideas, new ways to structure, new ways to change the word, to change the description, and allow the not just the imagination and not just the winds to take us, but the passion is to act. The passion is what will guide you. Your passion. You can have intellectual ideas, and they can only go so far, and the winds of intellectual ideas are pretty bland, actually. They can be stimulating here and there, but they're pretty bland. But the winds of passion to go up, the winds of passion to go straight down, the winds are different. The winds of just meeting a stranger that doesn't touch you versus the winds of meeting a stranger that really touches you. This is what I'm saying here. So the pictures are just pictures, but it's to get the passion activated, huh? And that's what we're using these to get certain lines and light, reflected light and lines of these various pictures to somehow click. Because people, it's basically a code. These are codes. And everything's got to click. Click, 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 click. The round ball and the round hole and the square and the triangle. And when a certain line hits, it's voila. Got it. And that's what we're using these for. We're actually using these to soften the complacency. Using these to soften our conditioning, that is so every day. To, let's say, get us to relax and stretch our minds a little bit, make it okay. Yeah. Okay. So, this picture is basically one of the most important pictures of this album, of this picture Bible. Because once we don't forget what our situation is, basically us inside the mind, we're at the mercy of the winds. And the mystery is always there, here, because the universe is inside us also. It's just not external, but is basically internal. And we're always somehow, usually it takes a desire, and usually we allow the winds of desire to throw us, pull us through or use certain storms to get us into a particular place in our thoughts or feelings or ideas. And in essence, a good teacher, let's say, inspires a person to allow storms to brew inside you. Okay? That's a good teacher. That can inspire you, for you within you and yourself to brew up storms, to take you places that we sometimes hesitate to go. Next picture, please. The lighthouse. There are very few lighthouses today in the world. There used to be a great deal, and they definitely have their place, and they still do. But we have GSP today. We use satellites now. So our lighthouse has basically changed to using satellites. And yet the lighthouse they're very significant, and now actually they're giving away practically these lighthouses so people can caretake and take care of them and still have them, still use them. But GSP has become the ways and means of finding out where we are in the world. But the lighthouse is somehow we always need as we find out. Sometimes we need a certain bit of information, a particular friend, a person to help us. Sometimes it takes a certain vitamin, a certain idea to find. And sometimes, because we are a lighthouse, and sometimes we don't allow the light to go out to, let's say we're crying inside, we're hurting inside, but we don't use the lighthouse inside to find good help. And sometimes the lighthouse is working well, and we're hurting inside, or we're seeking a bit of information, and the lighthouse is strong, and it's out there to find that bit of information or to find that particular person. And we all have this ability, and we use it quite naturally. But we also have the ability to shut down the lighthouse when we do need it. And this is something to think about, because usually the lighthouse is only naturally used at night and when the fog is there. And I think we all run into foggy days, foggy nights. And when that does happen, a lighthouse can be pretty important. And just don't let the fog run its course. So sometimes it's good to make a phone call. And sometimes you feel that you're going to invade somebody else's life by making a phone call, or you're going to bother people. Bother the person. Make a phone call, okay? Use that phone, or write that letter, or have those thoughts, or say those words. Use it. Here is a person breaking up. You could say a person even coming together. Either way. It can go either way here. But we're going to use this as a person somehow. The problems, the situation is somehow not working out. And the answers, there aren't any answers. And somehow maybe the person has been caught with something, red-handed, or that person's philosophy just did not work out. So, and consciously and subconsciously, things start to fall apart. And a person, all of a sudden, their self-esteem starts to defragment. And basically, this is how a person can feel. When you find yourself where this is happening, look at it this way. Because each cell of our body is independent, basically. Each cell of the body, the billions of cells that we have, are not dependent on the next cell next to it. Each cell is independently dependent on itself. So each piece of the puzzle is independent onto itself. It does not depend on the cell next to it, which is really quite interesting. So when it comes to the biology, each piece matters. And we have a unique ability with our conscious mind to break ourselves apart. And all of a sudden, our confidence, our philosophies, our ideas, our self-esteem, all of a sudden, it isn't quite there. And we can find ourselves defragmented, or I am beside myself, or things aren't quite working out. And versus when all the pieces of the puzzle are put together, and you know what it's like, when everything is going well for yourself, and you're happy, and and you got a pint in your hand, and and there's good music, and you got good friends, and well, that's because all the pieces are together. But when the pieces start to fall apart, it makes a difference. So when you start to feel and find yourself falling apart, think of this particular picture and start to put the pieces back together, and it takes time. As you notice, sometimes that we're falling apart, and all of a sudden a feeling, an idea, a sensation, or a word, or an experience comes about where all of a sudden you're back together. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. But most of the time, when you're falling apart, it takes a long time to put yourself back together. Lights, please. So this is interesting. That is true. Everyone has experience, I'm pretty sure. You're falling apart, and something happened, and you're back. How come it didn't take time? What was it? But most of the time, it takes a long time to put the pieces back together. We go to a therapist, we go to a friend, we have to start taking multiple vitamins or taking the supplement, and it takes time to put it together. But sometimes it just happens. That's interesting. That's really interesting. So what I want is to come back together. It's possible to do it quickly. Yeah. Or you can stretch it. You can really stretch it. Really take some time. And what's the usual way? Stretch it. You feel better suffering. You feel better that you deserve it. I think so. The Scots do, I think. Huh? Stretch it. And it's funny, if you can go from country to country, because the philosophy and the way people look at putting oneself back together is very different from state to state in America. People recuperate faster in certain states than other states. You know that? It's interesting. As well as countries. So it depends on the philosophy that you're born under. So if your country has a philosophy of stretching it continuously, you're going to stretch it pretty much. But it doesn't always have to take time. No, Scotland's don't stretch it. Huh? Yeah. What can you do to help yourself when you're breaking apart? Again, when it comes to more of a mental breakdown, seek help very quickly. Seek help very, very quickly. When it comes to biological breakdown, a lot of rest very quickly. and be sure and have good food. Good food basically is one of the best things for the mental and the biological. Very, very good food. Good food, well prepared. It makes all the difference in the world. Because if you prepare the food or have somebody who's healthy, usually you always have somebody healthy prepare your food, and then you ingest it, it works the body faster because nature comes first, then the mind. Right? And then after that, find someone who has pretty good mind to help you, find those pieces and use super glue if you have to, and put it together, even if you, you're all broken apart, but you're all glued up, and maybe you don't look so good, but you're still somewhat together. At least you can feel it. Yes. Yes. It could be coming together. So in essence, the person has been broken up, and now things are coming together. Reconciling the problem, the contract, or business is getting better. Yeah. Yeah.
When I look at it, I see he's breaking up, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's coming together. And with my own forces, how do I?
How do you know the difference? When you know the difference when you starting to feel good. Then you know the difference. If you have this habit, stop it. Stop it. If this is your habit, stop it. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do it. Just don't do it. The mind has definitely the power to do this. Don't do it, period. Regardless of what happens to you in your life, don't break apart. Okay? Things go wrong. Hey, it's the nature of this life. A lot of things go right and go wrong. But regardless whether they go right or wrong, don't allow yourself to break apart like that at all. You can feel bad, no problem. Things are, okay, but don't break apart. You have also the power of your mind not to break apart at all, and still going to feel your pain. It's okay. Still, things aren't good. It's okay, but don't let yourself break apart. That is your commitment, and that is your responsibility as a person, regardless of what happens. Regardless. I have it at home, at Leslie's. It is a real-life photograph of these three different scenes of this execution in Iran when the Ayatollah came into power and the Shah was forced out. And the Ayatollah executed all his enemies, people who he knew who were very proud to be very, very proud with the Shah. And there are a group of men, maybe 6, 7 men, and they're blindfolded and they're being gonna be shot. And in the end, this one person didn't allow themselves to break apart. This person had the pride. Regardless that I'm going to be executed, my life is going to be ended, I am not going to die breaking apart. The rest did. And this photograph is so touching, and I carry that with me all the time. This is one thing. Regardless of what happens, don't break apart. Okay? We all have that ability. And it's how we live throughout the day that's going to determine whether we break apart and crash under the fear of being executed, or stand tall and leave standing up, straight, head up. Because that's a reality. I'll bring that picture tomorrow. Right. All right, here's a real interesting illustration. As you can see, this person, all these people are in the snow, and there's a snowfall going on, a little storm. And these people are going to work, and a lot of them have sunk down. They are actually not in the snow, but they are in their hurt or in their pain, or they're disappointed, or they don't want to go to work. They don't like going to work. Things aren't working out for them. And as you can see, some are upside down. Some are really in a turmoil emotionally. And some feel the weight. The snow and the ice is really the hurt, disappointment, grudges, revenge, incomplete, want to hurt somebody, or life is too much. It's too, you get too numbed out by working every day and not being happy with it. And that's what this storm is all about. And here's this one person who is not basically affected by the storm. This person has, you could say, a brighter feeling and an idea about what is life. This person doesn't have grudges and the hurt and disappointment, and it's just going to work. And this person seems to have the synchronicity too, where things just are working out. This is very true. And we can see that there are a lot of people out there, a lot of younger people that have this philosophy, that have this idea of looking at life, because they haven't really been disappointed and hurt, or if they have, they learn to surf it a lot better than most people. A lot of people don't surf hurt and disappointment well. They don't. They take it and they put it in their pocket and they let the weight accumulate, and pretty soon their mind has got them talking in circles, or the revenge is too strong, or somehow all of life is not good, and they think if I have bad luck, then everything is bad luck, and again, here's just a different philosophy, a different idea, a different way of perceiving life. And a lot of people down here would say, well, that's not realistic. And this person can say it's not a matter of being realistic, it's just a matter of looking at things differently. I mean, what's realistic? What is really realistic? Yesterday I was telling the story about this grocery store outside Santa Cruz. And all the employees had this philosophy right here. And they were beautiful. They were just so wonderful to be with. And when I go to the Whole Food stores, the health food stores in Santa Cruz, they were the worst employees, the worst people. They make you not want to go in there and buy anything from them. They were the worst. And that was so funny. And here was a typical commercial grocery store. And so what really counts? What really counts is service, people, attitude, ideas. That's what counts. Sometimes parents, they'll end up with a child that can be pretty difficult. And sometimes parents end up with children that are very, very sweet and nice. It makes a difference to have the difference between the two, as it is with ourselves and with our friends. But when the majority of the people are down and out, it's hard to be here, very difficult to be here. It takes a lot of courage to have a brighter view, a brighter perspective. And remember that all of us are basically in the tub. We are constantly being affected by the mass thinking, the mass attitude, the mass feelings, the mass ideas. And we're always basically trying to find individual thinking that can stand. If the masses thinking is wrong, let's have the courage to stand up against it. New picture, please. Can you magnify it once, please? Can you stretch the picture? Open up the picture. Much more. Full view. More. Here we have the maze and nature. The maze is basically represented by the mind, the thinking, logic, rationale. 1, 2, 3. Step 1, step 2. I am 10 years old now. I am 11. And this is basically how the mind works. And we're always looking for a certain sequence. I expect you to be like this. I expect you to say that. I expect you to be nice to me. Oh my God, I'm lost. I made the wrong turn. Which way is out? Can you lead me to a better answer? Can you lead me to a room that has a little more space, etc., etc. Versus the nature above. The nature above, blood, bone, the 7 layers of the skin, all the organs, the hair that's constantly growing all over our bodies. And we're trying to take care of that, keep that in check. Skin that ages, skin that is getting younger and fresher, and skin that sometimes doesn't smell so good, and etc. And so here's the difference between the two. Nature and the mind. Logic and nature is a very good example of the mind versus nature. And we find ourselves being sophisticated sometimes, and somehow we think we're somewhat above nature and we've evolved above it. And yet, if we hold our breath completely for 4 minutes, our brain will die. I think it's 4 minutes, lack of oxygen. So it takes oxygen. It takes, without the nature, this mind doesn't seem to have much value here, this thinking here. For it's extremely dependent on nature for its survival. And so the nature, you could say, is extremely, how would you say, what would you say? If we cut off the oxygen supply for 4 minutes and the brain starts to die very quickly, I mean, geez, that's not too long, huh? It doesn't have much strength, and yet, being that it does have the ability to invent not just jets, but to leave our atmosphere, to invent hypodermic needles, to inject penicillin, and do all kinds of wonderful things, but yet it's still very short-lived. extremely short-lived, this mind, and it's extremely volatile. It can create war. It can literally destroy this planet if the atomic bombs start flying. It can, and it seems to do that. And yet, one little sticker in the bottom of your shoe can greatly affect the mind. One little sticker, or one little ant in your clothes. But when everything is all fine and wonderful, it seems invincible. It seems somewhat superior at times. And yet, we don't quite see the heart here, and yet the heart is basically represented by the nature itself, actually. And it's just not the storms or the sunset or the sunrise, but we'll get on to that later on about where the heart is in comparison to the mind. But it's a very good example of the pictures between the two, the realities between the two, of having a different definition of mind and nature. Yes?
It might sound quite complicated, the question. When I look at that, I see that everything that you said that mind does, invents hypodermic needles, clean water, is all in reaction to nature.
It is. It's in relationship to the nature, but yet it still claims it within the inside.
So
This is
does nature, and it seems to me that mind needs nature to function, to have a purpose, but nature doesn't seem to need mind. But is that correct?
That's correct. That is correct.
Well, what's the paradox of that then? Because that's what I'm looking for. It doesn't seem that in the paradox way of looking at things that can be correct.
I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, but let me bring up this one point. There was this this person that contributed a great deal of their money to various children's hospitals, and it helped a lot of children, and a lot of children's lives were saved, but yet still the various ailments and diseases take a lot of our children. And right before this person died, the reporter had asked, being that you had contributed and spent basically your life into eradicating the various diseases that affect children, what do you think of life? His comment was, I'm going to try and get it word for word, nature is cruel. Nature is so cruel. And that's how he died. Because he was living here. Nature is, lights please. The person in the basket kind of forgets about the blood, the flesh, the funguses, the viruses, the bacteria, all the many different kinds, and it takes all of it for us to be us. And it took everything, the combination of it all for us to exist. And when a person who lives in society and has control of it and can say, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, and no, do that differently, no, redo it again, tear it down, do it again. And we all do that to some degree with our own lives, whether we have money or not. We somehow become separate from the sky above. We forget that you block off the oxygen for 4 or 5 minutes and you're dead. That we are of nature. That people, because the maze can become so intricate, and you think it's so sophisticated. If you go read back into history, how people thought and how they looked at life, especially when they had some position in any town, any village, they had a position in any government, at a certain time, all of a sudden they're not nature anymore. They're above it. They're the idea. They become the idea. They have bought the idea of being whatever the dream it is that they thought that they were selves to be. It's almost like being a movie star and believing it. Yeah? Same thing. So this is where you have to be careful. Nature comes first. Nature comes first, and it's not cruel. Nature's not cruel. It is what it is. Taking it for what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Can you expand it once, please? Here's another maze. This maze is actually more in the workings of an everyday life, of a mind thinking. Can you magnify it, please? Twice. And as you can see in this particular maze, just a particular mind, and it looks like this person is quite young and was thinking of the circus and maybe reading a story about a boat going down the Mississippi River or whatever, and this person is somehow building what it is that is inside their mind about life and nature and such. So here's this a typical maze that most of us have inside our own heads, and the maze is filled, and we wander inside our minds, and sometimes we go thinking about this, or we try to walk through the maze to go try and remember where it is I left my keys or whatever. So just typical mind, nothing unusual here. Here is the horoscope. I guess if you go to a seer and they start to throw cards, and sometimes we like to know what's going to happen tomorrow. Or am I going to find the answer, or am I going to have a good day? Should I make that decision on this particular day? And we try to use this particular world of thought to somehow make our maze a little bit better, so our maze is a little more grateful, not only to ourselves, but we feel a little grateful to the life that we have. Next picture, please. Okay. This is a good one. Can you expand it once, please? No, yeah. It's as you can see, it's a person putting their signature on a piece of paper using a typical pen, but the pen has turned itself into a snake. So in essence, this person knows that they're going to cheat somebody, knows that they are taking somebody to town, and it's just not with a pen. We do that with words. We do that with behavior. We do that with revenge. It's basically the same thing, the connotation of a snake, of not saying it to someone, but doing it. Underhandedly taking advantage of the naive or whatever. And this happens all the time. This is very common in business. To a lot of business people, this is normal. This is what you do to the naive. This is what you do to the innocent. They deserve it. And this is basically a philosophy that does really exist in the business world. If you're naive, if you're so naive, you deserve to be taken advantage of. And that's why really one of the most harmful and the biggest disease is naivety. For naivety is basically a disease. And people that have the ability to see naivety in other people, they definitely wish it to continue. That's how they survive. That's how a lot of corporations survive and exist. That's how governments exist and survive. We see it all the time. It's so common in this world. It's basically never really addressed. So honesty here is the difficult thing. And that's why we have the court system, and sometimes the court system is also using the snake and is very dishonest and doesn't do any good. And sometimes the court system does work and can expose people that write with such a pen, that draw up contracts or take advantage of people or whatever with such a pen. And it's your job is to know, and I personally think anywhere from 40 to 60% of all business is very much like this. It's big. If you really go check the governments of this world, you'll find it pretty much the same thing, maybe even higher. So why not business? But if you don't know what takes place in business, if you don't know how it should work or what they're doing, if you can't see it, you can't see it. So your job is to find out where, how much, what is the volume, and the influence of naivety if you have it. And where do you have it? To hunt it down and eradicate it. Your naivety. Eradicate it. Most people, they have some feeling or idea that they are naive, but they're too embarrassed to point it out to themselves. Or they feel they deserve it, or they feel too guilty, or somehow it's just beyond their reach of conscious grasping, touching, working it. And if you don't know about your naivety and you're a little curious, ask someone who you think is not naive, and ask them, do I have any naivety, and where is it that you see that I am naive? It's good to ask. And then once you get the information, work it. Get it out of your system. And it's painful to work out naivety that you have picked up along the way. It's painful to extract it out of your mind, out of your feelings, out of your body. It's not easy. It's not a pleasant thing to do. It's almost like extracting a sticker, a thorn out of you. It's almost, it's less painful just to leave it in, actually, than to pull it out. Our world. Next. Yeah. Struggling with self. I think only a few of us are doing this. can you magnify it once, please? What a beautiful illustration. Struggling with what part of ourselves? You could say it could be naivety. It could be with a particular question or a particular relationship, whatever. Or it basically could be, what am I? Where am I? Where am I going? What is it that made me? And yes, basically it's struggling outside the body because nature comes first. Without good health, we're down. But once we have our health, and once the problems, the everyday problems are somewhat subsided, and when we start to really put in the real struggle between pointing to the stars, what is out there that we don't pay attention to? The realities of these subtle worlds that somehow are pretty evasive, pretty difficult to grapple. To struggle deep down inside, it's actually struggling into our inner mind, struggling down into our primitive minds, struggling, imploding basically down into ourselves to see what it is that we are, that we don't see, that we don't pay any attention to inside. The struggle is strong inside. Lights, please. Most of us are not farmers. I don't think anybody really is a farmer in here. We don't go out in the early morning and come back late in the evening. We leave our houses with the same clothes, and it's not really soiled by the time we get back. Maybe a few sweats, here and there, but we don't really struggle anymore. It's no longer a real physical struggle. The real struggle now is the mental. It's good and dandy, but the physical struggle is very important still. It's extremely important. And if we constantly just use the struggle with the mental because of how society is and how we make our money and everybody else is doing it, and if we stay with this struggle, it's not there's something missing. Human beings have basically struggled with nature, hunting, not just for food, plants, water, animals, but long walks and on bare feet, and a lot of bending, and a lot of staying alert and watching, and a lot of danger out there. And now the only danger there is on TV, basically. And there's hardly any bending. Oh, I got to pick up that paper and put it over here in this other desk. Oh, I got to type on this keyboard, and I got to do this. Oh, you mean I got to bend down and pick that up, or I got to pick up that trash? We don't do that anymore. Nature comes first. Do a lot of bending. Do garden work. Go dig holes. If you got nothing else to do, go dig a hole and cover it back up. Go put bricks on. Do bending. Do something that doesn't require the mental. It's healthy. It's extremely healthy to do. Yes.
I think that's why do people so much of sports.
Yeah, that's where sports has come in. They found that people who end up doing sports, it's healthy because you get away from the mental, and you are actually playing with one cell versus another cell. You're playing tennis with your cells, with the left arm, right arm, and you're pulling the personality right back into the body, into the biology. This is what's healthy. Okay? That's why break away from the mental and get into the garden. And I know it's not so easy here. People don't have these backyards and front yards, but you can have just small little gardens or something, or go brush your girlfriend's or your wife's hair, or something, anything to get back. Yeah. Okay, another break. Okay. Tiring. Because it's a lot of info. If you understand that when the input gets to be too much, the mind can sort of nod out. If you understand that and look at that and stand back, you can find yourself taking more info a lot easier. But if you just go with it, you find your mind tiring. That's true of anything. That's what I was talking about earlier this morning. If you understand the predicament and start to see what your predicament is as a person, instead of just doing your life, whether things are working out for you or not working out for you, but if you begin to really pay attention to it and standing back and looking at it, you'll find your life getting better because you're addressing it. You're not turning away from it. You're not pretending. You're looking at it and yet standing back. That this is what is happening in your life, as it is with this information. It's not something that people naturally do and then just start to hear a lot of information that your mind, because I'm putting out information in a way that you're not all of you are used to getting in with that certain slant. And so if you stand back a little bit and know that you take in information a certain way, but if you stand back, you can take it in a lot better. Lighter, instead of just moving with it. It's in the preparation. In the preparation, one prepares to climb Mount Everest, and it takes anywhere from a year to 3 years. Some people spend 5 years preparing, and not just getting the equipment. It's mental. The most important part is the mental, as it is here. Same thing. It's the physical, doing the transportation, the clothes, the showers, but it's the mental. It's what makes all the difference in the world. Because that's what you're paying for. How can you prepare mentally for coming here? It's preparing. You're not. You're coming here to gain insight. You're coming here to be penetrated differently. And that is allowance to keep the eyes open, the ears open, let things in that you would normally block off in conversation or thoughts or feelings or ideas. Let it in, because you don't know. Your life is your life because of how you have walked out your life. And it's difficult to alter that and to change that because the investment, not just emotionally and mentally in your life, of how you have walked out your life moment to moment. When one realizes that there's another way, and yet somehow you could say retain your life as it is, but take a quantum leap simultaneously at the same time, this is what you're after, without a great disruption. But it has to be basically a silent explosion, a silent implosion. explosion and implosion simultaneously. Yeah. That's what we're after. And a lot of these pictures can help to facilitate that. Okay. Questions? Yes.
Can a person lose one of those keys if this person gets hurt or traumatized too much?
You can never lose anything, basically. You don't. Once you have basically seen something, you haven't lost it. You just can't remember it. The person in the basket somehow does not go to that time and space inside your mind to see it. But it's there. You don't lose anything unless there is a brain decay. That's it. It's there. And sometimes, there are times that I cannot go to certain parts of what I want to remember. And the winds just can't take me there. And I know that. I just let it go. I don't, and I'm fine still.
But it can happen that this person just feel to missing something.
Generally, if there's a cause behind it. I'm talking about a cause of a passion, a cause of finding something of an, I don't mean to use the word of a higher order of a mission in there. Then one starts the journey within your home or your community, or you go off in a faraway land, or your contemplation, or whatever. But one will find oneself going through the maze of your life to find that space and time. If it's something that is that you find a need for it, or there's a passion for it, or there's a calling for it, then you take off in these little journeys inside. But we use the external world for that. Yeah. Yes. What do we use to build the bridges? Some people use paper, plastic, ideas. Some people use light. Some people use sticks. Some people there's nothing there. It's everybody builds things very differently. It depends on how they have been raised and how they look at life and how they look at matter. Men build things a lot better than women, because men, they with stones and it's just the way it is. But women build things when it comes to emotions and feelings and thoughts much better than men. So they use a different substance, so to speak, than men. Yeah, it's really quite interesting, with that. So it's different. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. I can't say, But because as you can see, I build with stones and metal and wires and such quite easily, because of how I was taught. If grandmas that have developed well, and after they had so many kids, and they have relaxed, having the first and the second and the third and the 10th kid, and after they've gone through the fights and the struggles and people dying and everything else, and all of a sudden they start to relax, and you can see how they pass on their teachings and how they have bridged their life towards people, towards society, towards business. It's very, very different than how a man who has done things quite differently. And I was talking with someone, and it takes both worlds to do it really completely right. if you are a woman, learn a great deal of the world of how men look at the world. If you're a man, go and learn learn the world of how women build the world, and because they're quite different inside, and the objectives are quite different. But learn the opposite, and you'll find yourself a lot better, because one goes inside the body, women, and men goes definitely inside the maze. Hard walls, cold, okay, hard walls, okay? And that's the difference. And so when you're communicating, actually, once you start to understand a lot of these pictures between nature, maze, like looking underneath this world, which is very male-oriented, actually. But what matters is the trip. That's what the woman would say. What matters is, hey, are we having a good time along the way? That's what matters. But it takes a great deal of this construction to do it, but that's not going to make you happy. What's underneath the road? Logically, and you could say, yeah, it's a good road. And that does help, but that doesn't mean it's going to make you happy traveling. What matters is on the way, traveling. Can you see the difference? But once you start to see the difference between the male and the female mind, you start to handle your conflicts with your female counterpart differently, because you understand the maze versus the nature. And when you're female and you're looking at males, they're not looking at the nature like you are. They're looking at the maze, what's step one, step two, or, how do we construct this and construct that? So when you learn to talk to each other according to the mind of the other, you find yourself communicating better, understanding better. Underneath the road. You know that the best roads in the world are in Germany. They built the roads in the 1930s, the Autobahn. And when they built these roads, they really put their mind to it that these roads would last a great deal of time, endure a lot of time and traffic. And the people who designed the Autobahn in the 30s, they really thought of the future, and they really thought of the tonnage, the weight that was going to travel on this road. And they are still the best roads and the best highways on the planet by far. And even though they built hundreds of kilometers of the Autobahn, it was a very costly venture, but well worth it, because it has endured tremendously. Poor roads are in America. The highway in Germany, I forgot what the figures are, but maybe they're like, it goes down to 7 feet below the surface. And they have many, many layers that they put in to sustain the Autobahn. In America, the road is about a foot instead of 7 feet. And so the roads in America deteriorate very quickly, and they always have to do it over again, constantly. But it's very expensive to do it the way the Germans did it in the 30s. It would be so expensive that no state could afford it. But that still is the best way to do it. What is underneath makes basically a big difference. How we wire the house before we built it makes all the difference in the world. how what education we get when we are young makes a very big difference because it's going to affect us when we get older. It's how we look at ourselves inside before we speak, before we go out into the world, before we take that job. To look inside, just to check our health, to check our attitude, and that, in essence, is what this is. To keep ourselves in check, to see really what is underneath. And sometimes, actually, we do that in business. It's very, very wise to check somebody out in business. Look underneath, not just that they're nice and they can smile and maybe they have a good rap or that they have a good idea, but to check inside to see what history they have, to see what the history is underneath. And it makes all the difference in the world. And it is for you to check your history. You have to know your history. Get to know your history and have a good look at it. Whether your history serves you or makes you look bad or makes you look good, it's not the point. Know your history. Know what's underneath your road, what road you're traveling on. Because the road, you could say, are your shoes. You're always walking your road. You're always walking your own path. So keep a good checkup. And be sure and visit the filling station every now and then and check your air, your petrol, and get new tires, new shoes when you need them. Yeah. Your history, yes, it's your upbringing. Because what is underneath the road actually goes back to your grandparents. Your grandparents get to see what what you have inherited. Huh? 'Cause your grandparents will tell you more about yourself than your parents. Actually, and that's underneath the road. And so you just get a pretty good view of yourself. So always check underneath the road. It's very much like checking before you go out, before you leave your flat and you go to work. You make sure that things are, that your shirt or your blouse is not dirty and, that whatever. All right, here we have a highway leading up. This is not going to heaven, okay? Don't think of it that way. But it is a highway that somehow your synchronicity is getting better, and somehow things are smoothing out, and that's what happens here. All of a sudden, we start to feel lighter with ourselves, with our thoughts and our feelings, and things aren't so difficult. And the road can easily lead up, but always be cautious. Don't go too fast, too soon. Make sure that if there's an incline or a decline, try to keep it as gradual, as slow as possible. And if there's ever an incline or decline, be a little careful, because it's easy to trip. Right? That's why I always stay at a 5. When you think you're evolving, be a little careful. You think that you've reached enlightenment, be a little careful. Stay at a 5. Stay safe. It's too easy to fall. Next picture, please. Here we have a picture of time. As you can see here, in this particular room here, it goes back about 10,000 years, maybe 20, 30,000 years, even further. And if we go maybe 4 or 5, 10,000 years into the future, all of a sudden we're here around BC, maybe 10 BC, 15 BC, almost down to 180. And then we go into another room further into the future, and we're in the maybe the 17th century here, 14th century, and we go into another room, we come into the present. And it's always good. It's like checking underneath the road to have a pretty good sense of history, how history constantly is moving in this particular direction, not just intellectually knowing it, because most people, they think they have a pretty good sense of history, but they haven't really put a great deal of contemplation of the sequence of how much time is involved here, and how things can radically change from one mentality to the other, and how back in BC there have been much better mentalities, much better educated thinking people than a lot of people today. And a lot of people think things today, things are more, let's say, more enlightened. In many respects, that's not so. There are a lot more unhappy people today than there were back then. Not in all countries, but in some countries. So things change back and forth. And we are not so futuristic, and somehow we find ourselves maybe working a little too much. And it's hard to say what's going to happen in the future, but things do seem to be getting better. Actually, things are definitely not getting worse. Things are definitely getting much better all the way around. It's just that we use the media to exploit the negatives a little too much without really seeing all the beautiful things that are taking place in our world today. And most people are really shielded from all the wonderful things people are doing to make our future much better. But what helps this person here, what brings more stability to a mind, to a family, to pass it on to your child, is to have a very good sense of the past and how past has walked itself out into the present. Because, lights please. Because a human being can never be in the future. It's impossible for a human being to actually be in the future. It's impossible for a human being to actually be in the past. You can't do it. The only thing a human being can be in a time and place is in the present. That's it. No matter how fast you run, you can never really walk into the future or into the past. Einstein says that if you travel very, very fast, all of a sudden you can kind of cheat time to some degree, and that most likely that's true, but we can't do that. So all we can do is stay in the present. And if the past, you could say, is outside our reach as well as the future, then the best thing that we can do with it is to not forget it and look at it and have some good ideas of how people thought and the possibility of how to think differently. That's what the future's all about, is to think differently. Because it is too easy to be in the present and to stay with your own mentality and your own thinking. I wish I could take each of you into this little capsule behind the screen and take you from century to century and leave you in that century for a good month